are warmly welcome at this afternoon's webinar, How to be Successful in a New Normal. My name is Pendra Estrop and I've been granted the honor of serving as today's MC. Before I begin, I would like to see some thumbs up from everyone, or you could say hello in the chat box. Thank you. What a splendid spirit from everyone. Attention to UITM students. The attendance link will be provided in the chat box. So please do not forget to sign in the attendance. So you won't miss the chance to participate in the lucky draw and receive a certificate. I repeat, attention to UITM students. The attendance link will be provided in the chat box. So please do not forget to sign in the attendance so you won't miss the chance to participate in the lucky draw and receive a certificate. Well, enough of that. Let's be exceptionally attentive for today's webinar and perhaps jot down some notes, since it's a golden opportunity to learn how can we be successful in this new normal. This afternoon's webinar, How to be Successful in a New Normal, is relevant and often discussed by many. As of today, the 20th of May 2022, the majority of individuals our age has grown up with the combination of future technology and perhaps traditional technologies. We are blessed with this future norm, which is the rise of human evolution. However, as time passes, new problems may arise. For illustration, the pandemic has caused many changes. The increase in technological progress has caused humans to immediately seek the effort to adapt to the rapid pace of new advancements. Isolation and lockdowns had consequently changed all of our lifestyle routines, making it challenging to see how we may flourish in this new norm. Of course, many of us will return to our old lifestyles once COVID is resolved, but there is little doubt that our post-pandemic lives will ever be the same again. This sudden transition, however, may or may not be all negative, as it is undoubtedly a sign to develop oneself and seize this very chance to learn new things and new ways to succeed. Success is a broad concept. It does not only imply having a perfect result or being a millionaire. It can mean different things to various people. As I've mentioned earlier, it is a frequent subject, especially now that everything is evolving and changing. Thus, today's subject could perhaps provide us some new information or guidance. After all, one of the goals of today's webinar is to inspire and encourage students to be inventive and creative. Therefore, it is a blessing to us for having this grand first-hand presentation from none other than Miss Dzuleira Abu Bakar. Let's offer a round of applause to our respected Miss Dzuleira Abu Bakar.
Hello, everyone. Hi. Very good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Joseph, for the opportunity to speak today. Thank you very much. Pandra, thank you for the very kind and very eloquent introduction. I am indeed very happy to be here today because I think I'm speaking to the younger me. Yeah. So I was a former student of UITM many years ago. Yeah. I don't know, I graduated some 20 years ago, right? Seems like forever, but the memories of being in a UITM sort of environment and that whole experience was very formative for me, and it has shaped me and it has made me the person I am. Yeah. So I'm very fortunate and I'm very honored to be here today to speak to all of you. So I hope that you'll be able to take away some good stuff from what I'm going to share with you today. You know, I'll keep it as light as possible. You know, I'm sure you guys don't want to hear all those heavy stuff, you know, and I must admit that I can give very boring presentations because I'm used to speaking to boring adults about strategy, about corporate, about projections, about, big world issues. But today we're going to talk about you guys, right? And again, I think the theme today is how to be successful in a new normal. I think the irony is, for some of you, you may not realize what pre-pandemic was in terms of education is for you, right? And many of you may have just gotten into university at the thick of pandemic. Okay, I don't know if you can put up your hands, but how many of you actually signed on or got on to your uni experience online, virtually? Yeah. So I think many of you here. So I think safe to say, you probably don't have a full experience of what life was before the new normal. So this technically is new normal. Oh, sorry, your normal, right? This is your norm, right? And for old people like me who've graduated 20 years ago, having tablets in class, let alone a phone, is something unthinkable, right? Everything was paper, lecture, physical. It was impossible. It is unthinkable to do a discussion remotely. But with the current generation and with those of you who have gotten into the academia or the university life in the last 2 years, this is your normal. Yeah, this is your normal. And fortunately or unfortunately, technology is your normal, right? So for people like me, or I don't know, maybe I'm being presumptuous here, Mr. Joseph, technology is something new for us, right? Or sort of getting used to the world of technology and digitalization and, having our whole life revolve around technology is something fairly new, but not for you guys. Some of you, you may have your siblings, 2 years old, already pegang telephone, already on the iPad. My nephew and nieces operate iPads so much better than I do, right? So yeah, anyway. Like I said, it's been 2 decades. A lot has changed since I left university. And I am reaching out to you, to a generation that's digitally native. So we call you guys the digital natives. Okay, you may have heard of that term. Be proud of yourself because you're actually way ahead of us, right? You understand concepts faster. You're on TikTok, for God's sake. I'm not, right? So now I think it's very important to then take a step back and understand what success means for you. Okay, take the whole equation of new normal or current norm aside. But what does success mean to you, right? So if I take you through the next slide, I've got some, interesting quotes that I can share with you. Next slide, please. So, President Barack Obama is my favorite president of all time. And of course, a favorite leader of all time. And I think it's not just him. I'm a big fan of his, the First Lady, right? I think he has said and given many wise advice, right? And I think one that stands out is what you're seeing on screen. The old normal wasn't good enough. You don't have to accept the world as it is. You can make it into the world it should be and could be. You create the new normal, right? So essentially, your norm, your environment, and your present, and more importantly, your future, is really what you make of it. Is really what you make of it. And it is very, very important to understand that this path to success, this path to change, this path to future growth, all starts from us, all starts from within, right? I would be bold enough to tell every one of you here listening to me, never accept things as it is. Always question, right? And I always tell people, and people always ask me, what do you think is the greatest advice you could give anyone? I say, never take no for an answer, right? And never accept things as it is. right? Sometimes it can work to your disadvantage, but most often than not, it works to your advantage because it means that you will challenge your status quo. It means that you will challenge your current. It will challenge what's not working, right? It will provide you with the mindset that is necessary to take you forward. And success is what, right? It's very subjective. Some people view success in many, many forms. Success to some is wealth. Success to some is academic degrees. Success to some is being able to take care of their society, their parents, their siblings, their family. So success is really what you want and what you make of it, right? But the path to success is really what that starts within you, right? And again, I find that the pandemic, again, like I said, for most of you, you were born into this environment. The only norm you know is the pandemic or the whole COVID situation, right? But you must understand that the COVID pandemic actually offers a great opportunity for radical change. It's a quantum leap as far as how things operated pre-pandemic and post-pandemic. This session that we have today, before the pandemic, many of us didn't even know how to operate Zoom, let alone know what Zoom is, right? And most of our meetings today is done virtually, is done on a Zoom platform. And of course, not to mention all of these virtual platforms, these media platforms, in terms of valuation, if you understand the value of the company has actually skyrocketed because everyone is on it. So that's how pandemic can actually erode wealth, remove wealth, or increase wealth. So in simple words, it can actually make you really, really poor or make you really, really rich, right? But if you're in between, you're lucky because you're unaffected. Now, again, it's all about perspective. It's all about how you view challenges ahead of you, right? Now, and again, if you look at that generational gap, which also shapes your thinking, yeah, also change your mindset and your thinking. I think many of us, the older generation, would like to think that the younger generation have it easy, right? Or the younger generation must be thinking, yeah, these older folks has it more, their life was far more simpler, things are far more complex now, But again, it's a matter of perspective, okay? And this generational gap, you guys, I don't know your age group, but I'm guessing you guys are in Gen Z, which means that you're born between the year 97 and 2012. That's sort of the age group. And then you have the millennials, right? Those that were, sort of born much later, 81, sorry, much earlier, yeah, the millennials. And then you have people like me, the Gen Z, right? So there's a huge generational gap. And that affects the way you look at things. Now, next slide. And when I say look at things, it certainly also affects the way you view workplace, your expectations of workplace. Now, you're all in university. You're all forced into a norm where some of you are familiar, some of you may not be familiar. All right. Let me tell you about the reality of workplace these days or today. I'm actually working from home today because the pandemic has brought about the change where it has given us flexibility to work from wherever we are. Right? Now I can choose to work from the office when it's required and choose to work from home when I think it's necessary, right? So it gives us flexibility. I don't get stuck in traffic. Prior to the pandemic, I think many of us got stuck in 3-4 hours of traffic. I don't know if you live in any parts of Malaysia, but in Klang Valley or in KL, rather, 2-3 hours traffic is, it's a norm, right? And imagine what 2-3 hours can do to a person's productive day if you had channeled it properly. So that's what the pandemic had done, right? Now, I think it's important to understand that all of this has made our lives very much easier, right? But again, for your generation, you may view this as something that is your norm. So you feel that this flexibility is a burden to you. And I don't know how to syndicate your response here, but you may feel that this is a burden to you because this is what you're used to. And people like me, I find this flexible, right? And this is what technology has done. Technology has provided a solution to world's greatest problem, and that's the business that I'm in, right? I'm in the business of technology and creating technology products to solve the world's biggest problems. I'll get to that boring part later, but now you need to talk about the workplace and what does success means to you in the workplace. To just give you a little bit of stats, right? You guys, which is Gen Z, believe that they're the hardest working generation. 32%, which is a large number lah, huh? Believe that you're the hardest working generation. Again, it's up to perspective, right? We don't know. We don't know what does that hardest working entail. Does that mean that you're on the computer 18 hours a day, right? We certainly work 18 hours a day, but we may not be on the computer 18 hours a day. I may be in meetings, but I'm still working 18 hours a day. Again, right? Now, 26% believe that they would work harder and stay longer at a company that offers flexible schedule. As I've mentioned earlier, more and more companies post-pandemic and during the pandemic period have moved into the flexible working environment because that's the only method or work mode that can work, right? With no physical interactions allowed, the only way for you to interact and work is through flexible arrangements where you work virtually. And that is here to stay. Many international companies around the world have already adopted, right? However, what's ironic is that I would have expected there's a bigger number of those who would prefer to be in flexible working environment. But what does that show you? It shows you that the Gen Z or this generation or you guys still want to interact physically. You still value physical interactions. Right? There's a lot of good that comes out of physical interactions. There's only so much that you can discuss and do via online, right? Through online methods and online meetings. But at the end of the day, real, meaningful, impactful decisions and actions come out of brainstorming, which is usually done physically. And we as human beings, we crave physical interactions, right? So, I mean, it's understandable that the percentage is lower, okay? Now, the big one, 35% don't like being forced to work where they don't want to. This is a problem, right? This is a problem. And it's a good problem because the generation nowadays are more aware of what they like and what they don't. And therefore, they do not like to be pigeonholed into a job that they don't enjoy doing, right? Because work constitutes a big part of our lives. If we don't enjoy the work that we do, there is no way that you're going to be successful, right? Because every day would seem like a drag. You wake up in the morning and all you want to do is go back to sleep. You know, you don't want to go into work. So that is what it means that you're being forced to do the work that you don't want to. Now, 34% not being able to use vacation days when you want to. This one, maybe I will not comment too much because any of us, the first thing that we want to do is go on vacation, right? Again, like I said, if you love your job, every day is a holiday, right? Maybe I'm stretching it, but again, it's important to like what you do. 33% feels that an employer who give them no say over their work schedule, do not enjoy the work, right? Again, it goes back to flexibility. The generation today want flexibility in terms of the work that they do, autonomy in terms of the work that they do, as well as schedule. They want a more flexible schedule, right? It all goes back to, again, the generation that you were born into, right? And the environment that has molded you. Yeah. Next slide. So I mentioned this earlier. We talked about workplace, right? And again, work is a big part of our lives. You can be informal which means you sit down, you go to your office and you get work done. Or you could be in an informal line of work where you could be an entrepreneur, you could run digital platforms, you could be in on-demand jobs, you could be selling stuff online. Those are all categorized as informal jobs. Then you have the formal jobs, as I've mentioned. But either way, work is a big part of what we do because it determines the quality of life and how we actually integrate it into our entire lifestyle in that sense. So what does success mean to you? For some people, success is stability. And again, I don't mean this by financial stability. It could be a stability that looks at every aspect of your life. You're stable in terms of your health, family, support, and finance, right? And again, balance. Balance and stability kind of, you can view it together, right? So you have a balanced lifestyle. You work as much as you enjoy, or some people enjoy more than they work. I don't know, So it's always important to maintain a balance. And I think the most important thing, which I would advocate, is being you, right? Authenticity is important because if you're able to be you, then you chart your path to success. What stands in between you and success is you. So if you're not being you, how do you get on the path of success? Right? So it is important to realize and understand who you are and bring that out. Right? And of course, it's very important to have a point of view. When you're certain of who you are and you know who you are, then you must speak up when the time comes. You must speak up when you're spoken to. You must speak up when you have a point of view, right? Again, there's a lot of correlation between successful people and having a point of view. I spoke about Barack Obama in the beginning. We all know that Barack Obama is one of the greatest orators this world has ever seen. And that makes him a great leader. And it's not that he speaks for fun. He has a very strong point of view about everything, right? And that makes him a successful person, a successful leader, a successful president, right? So yeah, next slide. Okay, so my team had prepared this slide and this deck. So I don't know if you want me to go into too much of details, but I'll tell you a little bit about what I do, right? I lead this entity called MRANTI, which is the Malaysian Research Accelerator for Tech and Innovation. Now, I think what I'd like to share today is what we do at MRANTI. What we do at MRANTI is to help local technology achieve their fullest potential, okay? Allow our local talent to actually create technologies that would solve the problems of the country, pressing problems of the country and maybe even the world. Yeah. And I think it is important for all of you here today on the call, this generation, to understand what an important role you play in shaping the country's success and the country's future. First, you have to decide in what success means for you. But I think it is important to not be insulated about that thinking. You must think about what success would mean in totality, right? You must think of what success would mean for the country and how can you contribute to that. And I strongly believe that everyone is born with a purpose. Everyone that comes to this life is brought with a purpose. So you must realize what is it that you need to do. What is your purpose in life, right? And that will lead you to the path of success. So today, if one of you here feel that maybe my path to success is to be a startup founder, a technologist, a researcher, or you have great ideas to actually solve the country's biggest problems, look me up, right? So we are doing multiple work, a lot of work with the universities to see how we can take out all your bright minds, you know, turn it into great companies and obviously scale them, right? So, and these are all your job opportunities, right? Some of you may not want to go into office jobs anymore. This generation, I don't know, if I ask your generation, what do you want to do when you graduate? The first thing they tell me is they want to be a startup founder. They want to be a business owner. No one wants to work for people. No one wants to work in desk jobs. You know, gone are the days where people come out and say, oh, you know what? I want to be lawyers, accountants, or engineers. Now, even engineering students don't want to be engineers, right? So the whole employment, workplace perspective has changed. And it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. But again, that should actually take you in the direction of thinking what success means for you. Yeah. Next slide. I've talked about this a lot, embracing the new normal. Again, for you guys, it's not the new normal, it's the norm. Yeah. But again, you might face the new normal in the future. God forbid, another pandemic or something else that would turn us around, right? Shake our world up, just like what the COVID pandemic did, right? It's important for us to prepare for the future. And again, preparing for the future, you may use the tools that can come your way. Technology offers you all the tools. But what is the most important thing in embracing change and new normal? Is your mindset. If you're not adaptable, you are resistant to change, then even the most sophisticated tool given to you will be wasted, right? It will be a wasted opportunity because, like I said, what's between you and success, what's between you and achieving your greatest potential is you and your mindset. Okay. Next slide, please. Preparing for your future. We don't know what will hit us in the future, good or bad, right? But you must always equip yourself with the necessary skills. Always have multiple skills. And with your generation, knowledge is at your fingertips. When I say fingertips, it's at your iPad, it's on your phone, right? So I would say instead of aimlessly scrolling on social media or TikToking, equip yourself with skills online. It is important to master multiple skills, right? You may be doing your degree, I don't know, in maybe computer science today, or maybe psychology, maybe history, art, I don't know, right? But equip yourself with other skills, language, coding, accounting, right? Understanding how businesses work, public speaking, right? I think what's also important these days is the ability to articulate, ability to share your point of view. I mentioned this earlier. No one will understand what you're saying if you're not able to articulate that in the clearest manners possible. Clearest and most succinct manner possible. So you have to learn how to speak properly in simple words. Yeah. Of course, keep an open mind. Know yourself. Upskill yourself with digital-oriented skill sets, as I've mentioned earlier. Knowledge is at our fingertips. Now, thanks to Google, you can learn about almost anything on Google. When I was in university, Google was just up and coming. When I was in school, no, we didn't have iPads, we didn't have computers, so everything was textbook, encyclopedia. It was those thick encyclopedia. Now you have everything online, right? But again, it's the danger when knowledge becomes, a big ocean in that sense. It's so abundant. So you need to know what is it that you're looking for, right? And again, you need to explore beyond your comfort zone. I think it's very simple. The concept is this: when you're too comfortable doing something, when it becomes a routine, that's the time where you have to step back and realize that, you know what, you need to be doing something else. You need to challenge your mind. You need to challenge your status quo, right? Big things, breakthroughs happen when you challenge the environment, right? The greatest entrepreneurs this world has seen, your Elon Musk, your Jeff Bezos, your Richard Branson, they all have one thing in common. They have never been in their comfort zone. They are always trying and testing and thinking, and people calling them crazy all the time. I'll share one secret with you. Many years ago, when I first started working, I was trained a lawyer, but because I made such a horrible lawyer, I didn't practice law. Right. So I was working in business development. I was doing multiple jobs at the time. I was doing multiple assignments. So I was actually sent to LA at the time to negotiate a launch service agreement. So I was working with this company that was actually sending rockets up to space. Yeah, in Malaysia. So at the time, I met with Elon Musk. No one knew who he was some 24 years ago. You know, and they were still operating out of this small, dingy, factory-looking like place in, you know, suburbs of Los Angeles, right? And he had such a big mindset that he wanted to break through into space. And at the time, only big companies operated in that industry. It was NASA, Boeing, those were the big names. But he had a big dream. And he wanted to challenge the status quo. He wanted to challenge the norm. And today, look where he is. Even you guys know him, right? So if there's one thing in common, like I said, success means a lot of things to many people. But you will not achieve success if you're doing what you're already doing for the last 20 years. No. You have to always take chances, always take risks, dream big, think big, and you want big things in life, right? But again, you have to define and decide what that big thing look like. Okay. Now, undergo internship, right? When you're done with your studies, with your graduation, or you have, say, a summer break or a semester break, think of ways to sharpen your skills, acquire new skills and experience. It is important to deploy yourself into areas that you're not familiar, because the great thing about doing that is that it builds your resilience, it builds your mind, it allows you to think in ways that you would have never imagined, right? That is the beauty of getting new experiences. It expands your horizon. If you can afford to travel, travel. If your parents can support your journey, all well and good, right? And if you can do an internship outside of the country, better still. Okay. But if you can't, there are just so many opportunities within the country that you can do. All you need to do is your mindset. You just need to be creative about it. Then comes to my last point, be creative and innovative, right? What is creative? Creative is doing things in a different way. Innovating is improvising, right? So if you've done things that works today, you want to improvise to deliver better results or faster results. That's innovating. Right? So technology is just a tool. Next slide, please. Oh, I'm done. Okay. So yeah, I mean, well, like I said, I've kept this presentation very light. I want to keep it conversational. I'm happy to take any questions. I did not want to go into too many philosophical discussions or ideologies. I just wanted to share with you what I thought about success and what thinking has helped me today, right? And I share that sentiment with the team that work with me. I have team members who are younger, and I also have team members who are older, right? So this is really how I view success and what I think are important traits to achieve success. And with that, I will end my presentation, and I'm happy to take questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Zulera, for that fruitful and well presented talk. I too agree that we can create this COVID situation, or we call this our new normal, to something progressing and convenient. Even even though Barack Obama is not the president of Malaysia, I can also say that he had greatly impacted to a lot of people, like how you are admired and looked upon, Ms. Zulera. I recall you said one time that this is where ideas for impact are sparked, where thought and tinkering become a thing, where maintaining a competitive edge is required to cultivate ideas from an early stage, effectively transition and scale them for sustainable impact. As we get older, we really aspire to be as well minded and wise as you are. But of course, as what is mentioned, authenticity is vital, and we will always be reminded that we are unique in our very own way. So, thank you, Ms. Zulaira, for making us feel important and believing in ourselves. Therefore, on behalf of UITM Sabah, let us invite the coordinator of Academy of Language, Ms. Delia Olabel, to give us her welcoming address and present the certificate of appreciation. The floor is yours, Ms. Delia.
Thank you to our beautiful auntie, Miss Pandra Asco. Good afternoon to all, especially the advisor of the Meeting Master Gable Club, Mr. Joseph Alagarach, the committed organizing team chaired by Miss Patricia, our esteemed speaker, Miss Dzuleira Abu Bakar, the CEO of MRANTI, fellow colleagues of UITM Sabah and friends as well as students. It is indeed an honor to have Ms. Dzuleira here today as our guest speaker to share with us her invaluable experience on how to be successful in a new normal. So I could feel the what do you call this the enthusiasm, yeah, in you, Ms. Dzuleira, especially when you become the speaker today. And throughout, I really hope that the students would actually be inspired to make their lives better in a new normal and better way after, after all this 2 years of uh, different way of living in a way. Yeah. So on behalf of your ITM Sabah, I would like to be the one to show our gratitude to you, Ms. Dzuleira, by presenting the certificate of appreciation. So presenting.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for your time
Thank you
today
very
and
much.
for your effort. Thank you.
What a thoughtful speech from Ms. Delia. This event is assisted by numerous people to make this webinar as successful as it can be, and Ms. Zuleira has significantly provided this service to us. This certificate of appreciation is a formal way to appreciate Ms. Dzuleira Abu Bakar for sparing her time as today's guest speaker despite having a busy schedule. And I shall say that I am profoundly grateful for you, Ms. Dzuleira. Thank you again, Ms. Dzuleira and Ms. Delia, for the delivery of that remarkable speeches. Oh, and I'd like to ask Ms. Dzuleira if it is okay for you to stay a while after the Q&A session so that we may capture a screenshot and cherish this moment.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Now, why don't we address several questions asked by the participants? For those who have any inquiries, please do ask by speaking up or type it in the chat box.
Hello everyone, my name is Patricia and I will take over this Q&A session. So if any of you guys feel free to ask in the chat box or just use your mic. Okay, Mr. Leader, I have a question for you. Do you think that we should follow our passion or just follow the norm as others? Because nowadays we have too many graduates from a particular field like business. So do you think we should have different courses?
Okay. It's a tough one, but I would say decisions that you make needs to be sensible, right? So you need to balance. I mentioned in my deck, there's a part where I talked about balance. So any decision you make, you need to balance your decision, and you need to make sensible decisions. And that sensible decision, only you can say whether it is sensible or not. Whether it is sensible to follow your passion, right? If your passion doesn't pay and you are in a situation where you have financial commitments, then it may not be sensible, right? So probably what's sensible is to find a job that would balance, right? That you may partially like, but at the same time would pay your bills, right? But eventually, when you find that stability, then you can find your way back into doing what you love doing. And it's bonus if what you love doing actually pays your salary, right? Or will make you lots and lots of money, right? So that is why it's always important to acquire multiple skills. It is important to not be dependent on one skill set, right? Survivability is very, very important moving forward. In fact, I would say things are tougher for the generation moving forward because everyone's so smart these days. Everyone knows a lot of things, right? And information is actually at the fingertips. Everyone can look something up on the internet. So you need to know what's going to set you apart from another person, right? But at the same time, like I said, what's most important is make sensible decisions. Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Dzuleira. I think that we should think wisely before taking any courses. So we proceed to another question.
Excuse me, can I ask one question, please? Hello, good afternoon.
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Dzuleira. Thank you for availing your time for this session. I just like to ask you a question. Can the students, let's say they have ideas to use to innovate, they have some ideas, and they don't know where to go to carry out this idea into a reality, So is there any way that your organization can help these kind of students?
Yes, that's indeed what we do. In fact, we look at bright ideas. We try and find ways to refine those ideas because you have to understand the journey. An idea needs to be put into productization. You need to productize it and therefore then find a way to commercialize or bring it to market. So sometimes it's also important to look at whether your idea actually solves a problem. So you come up with solutions based on problems. Those are most viable ideas and products. So we definitely will help out. In fact, we will have programs to support university students as well. But I think, Mr. Joseph, if there are any interesting ideas, feel free to reach out to us. We can see how we can help you out because we also have other sister agencies that work with grassroots. Although we do currently work with more sort of mature stage, which means you must have a product. Ideas, we have another entity that can help you with, but I'm happy to sort of assist.
In other words, is there any proper platform that they can approach? Is there any form or any link you can give so that if they have any kinds of thing the students want to pursue?
Let me share a couple of links and I'll share it with you, Mr. Joseph.
Okay, sure.
Thank you, Sir Joseph, for the question, and thank you for the answer, Ms. Dzuleira. Now we have questions from Brendan Chai An Wang. Malaysians tend to scoff and laugh at government initiatives in developing technology locally. However, I'm sure there are noteworthy advancements being made in various sectors where technological development is concerned. Would you know of these advancements being developed currently, perhaps through Technology Park Malaysia? You may.
Yeah. That's well, it's a good question, and of course it's a common observation. But it also starts with us not appreciating what we have. So sometimes breakthrough technology does not necessarily means it's not being developed elsewhere in the world. It may also mean that we have similar or same capabilities in Malaysia, and we're doing and solving similar problems. But what it does is that it would reduce dependency on foreign technology, right? So you're creating the same technology that can be deployed in Malaysia, right? I'll give you an example. So in UTM, there's a lecturer or a researcher that has created extraction of clean water, right? Depending on what the source is, extraction of clean water and drinkable water through membrane technology. It's basically a filtration technology, but it's a membrane technology. Again, I won't go into too much of details, but again, these are noteworthy, quoting you, noteworthy advancements that are actually being done in our local research institutions. However, what's not there is a clear path for them to come out and sell their products, right? And also market their solutions internally. So what we are trying to do is we want to promote all of these local technologies, right? It's not to say that we are going to develop something that is not developed around the world at all. I think that's almost impossible because we know that other countries in the world, the US, Israel, and China, they are very, very technologically advanced. But it's not for us to compete, but it is for us to create local capabilities. It's two different things. So I think first start by not laughing at what's happening in Malaysia. You need to appreciate your local talent. We need to help one another.
Thank you, Ms. Dzuleira. I hope that answered your questions, Mr. Brandon. We proceed to the next question. If any of you guys want to ask Ms. Dzuleira about anything, you can feel free to use your mic or you can type in the chat box.
I see a question in the chat box, but it's like 2 or 3 different questions. Maybe I can attempt to take that. Right. So first question, what inspired you the most in your life before Gen Z? I'm not sure if I understand the question correctly, but well, I come from the Generation X, if there's something that exists. I don't come from the Gen Z. But I think what inspires me is to make a difference. I am in a path where I can make that difference, but I cannot do it alone. So what inspires me is to continue to help make that change, to make a difference in whatever that we're doing. And I think solving problems through technology is a big thing. So if I can continue to do that, that journey inspires me. And what's your opinion on millennials in the workplace? Okay, this is a tricky one. I work with a lot of millennials. I think they're a very fun, energetic, vibrant bunch. But probably a little impatient. A generation that looks for instant gratification, if you like, which sometimes can work against them. So I think what's probably needed is to manage your expectations, be a little bit more patient, and see things from others' perspectives. I think that's very important. But overall, I think millennials make the world a better place. What motivates you to get your success right now? And do you perhaps have any downhill moment in your life? Tough question. Life is full of ups and downs. It is really what you make of it. When you're down, look at the upside. And when you're up, don't get too carried away, I suppose, because today you're okay, tomorrow you won't be, sorry. Today you're breathing, tomorrow you won't. So there's no certainty and no guarantees in life. So take every day as it comes.
Thank you, Miss Dzuleira. I hope that answered your questions, Fadli. So I have a question for you, Miss Dzuleira. It come from me. I wanna ask about because mental health issues has been a common thing right now. And when talking about mental health issue, I think that most of the Gen Z right now and the youngsters right now has uh, probably the most who had suffers like depression, like schizophrenia, like that. And so, what will be your message to the to 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 us, to the youngsters, in order to achieve our success with our with the issue, regarding the issue, the mental health issue?
Mental health is a very, very worrying trend right now. And rightly so, as you mentioned, this generation suffer more from, mental health, and it's something that cannot be ignored. Um, I think it's important for you to have the right support system. If you don't, you have to identify your support system. And support system does not necessarily mean family. In most cases, it could be your friends, it could be your mentors, it could be your lecturers, it could be people you trust. But you will need to find a support system that you can speak to, right? Expression of emotion is a very important thing, and it's absolutely critical. And everyone deals with their emotion very differently. Some people, stress warriors. Some people cannot manage stress. Some people are depressed for reasons they themselves do not know, right? There's a difference between clinical depression and behavioral depression, right? And a lot of it has got to do with environment. But if you're clinically depressed, then you need to get clinical help. You need to see the doctor. So I think more than anything, it is important for this generation to know, to first identify that you have a problem, okay? And if you're not sure, speak up. Speak to your friends, speak to your colleague, and I think the minute you start entertaining thoughts which are not healthy, you should already seek help. You only have one life to live. Live it to your fullest. And it's important to remember and realize that there are always people who are more disadvantaged, who are in a more unfortunate situation than we are. I'm not saying that gratitude would take away mental illness, but I'm saying it helps. But again, like I said, depression comes from various forms, various sources. You'll need to actually deal with it. First of all, find the source of it, find the cause of the depression. Only then you can find a solution. And it's not an overnight solution. I've had friends whose children are dealing with depression. I have got team members who deal with depression. It's a real thing. It's a real thing. And no one should ever downplay mental health. Yeah.
Thank you for your answer. It really touched my it really touched my heart, and yeah, I would take note of that.
Hello, I would also like to ask a question. I believe this is more of a personal question since you mentioned of struggles and everything, right? Well, I recall that you are a valued alumna of UITM, earning a Bachelor of Law from UITM, right?
Yes.
I believe that it means that you have changed your career path. And I just want to ask, did it ever make you regret taking the degree or not being a lawyer in such way?
The best thing that has ever happened to me is that I'm not a lawyer. And I say this to my husband. My husband is in practice. He's a full-fledged lawyer. So I'm like, I have the fun job. I deal with fun people. But anyway, I'm coming back to the question. In this day and age, many of us don't actually do jobs that we are supposed to do, right? You may have a first degree in engineering, but you end up in investment banking. You may have a first degree in arts and you end up in business, right? I think what's important is, or you may choose to use your first degree. You may do law and get into legal practice, which is all well and good. But I think your first degree should not limit your career trajectory. What you learn in your first degree serves as a foundation to then explore what works for you. When I did my degree, I was young, ill-advised, I would say. I didn't know what I want. I didn't know what I wanted. I wasn't the top performing student in school. I didn't do very well, to be honest. Well, I didn't do horribly, but I didn't do very well. My choices were limited. And I was also, I left school at the time where it was the Asian financial crisis. So we were also very affected economically at the time. So there was no, I couldn't avail myself to any loans or scholarships at the time. So yeah, my choices were very limited, and I got into ITM. And fortunately for ITM, because the law degree or the law faculty is probably one of the best law faculties in the country. And I'm very, very grateful for the experience, the learning, the excellent lecturers I had in ITM who had actually molded me to be the person I am today, right? So it gave me the foundation that I needed. And then after that, I chose to do what I like, which is business. I did my master's right after that. So that sort of took me in a different trajectory. So my message is your first degree should not limit you in terms of the choices that you will make for your career. But a degree is important. I don't know, maybe some people may not agree with that. Nowadays, you don't need a degree, but what's important is skill sets. So it depends on how you acquire those skills, right? Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Dzuleira, for that answer. I hope that answered your question, Pendra. So we have another question from Resident Studios. I think this is the last question. Hello, does being financially stable considered as being successful in your opinion, Ms. Dzuleira?
I may get into trouble by answering this, but money can't buy happiness, but money can buy you a whole lot of things, right? So my answer to that is it is important to be financially stable. It is absolutely important to be also financially independent, which means as an adult, as a responsible adult, you are responsible for your financial stability. Means you can generate your finances. You're not dependent on your parent, on your siblings, or anyone. Women, men, no one. I think financial independence and stability is absolutely important for anyone. And that is one form of success. Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Dzuleira. I agree with you. I think we have to be financially stable at all time in the future, of course.
Yeah.
Very good. So that is the last question from us, Ms. Dzuleira. Thank you for the answers and thank you for the questions, everyone. So yeah, proceed to the MC Pendraistro.
Yes, thank you again, Ms. Dzuleira, for that wonderful response. Thank you.